Hello! So, how to collect in 2025, or at least how I'm going to collect. Now yeah, I know this video is probably late to say how to collect in 2025, but I've been going through a bit of a thing with my collection. For some reason recently, I've just felt overwhelmed with it all. There's too much stuff coming out and I didn't know which way to turn, and it's kind of put me on a bit of a downer about my collecting. But I'm coming out of that now and I'm looking at how I should collect for 2025. Now for me, it's been a little bit too easy to go mad with the spending and having to collect whatever I could. Everything and anything. We're a few weeks into the new year now, and I've been kind of trying to take a closer look at my habits and lifestyle with collecting physical media. Now the first thing with my collecting, I need to keep in mind that I don't need to have it all. All of the new release movies that are coming out week after week after week. A lot of the time I just don't need to pick them up because I've not really got time to watch them. And also I need to start considering options. You probably all already know that I've been burnt by my habits in the past. And that's been for many reasons, whether it be addiction or hoarding or whatever else. But anyway, buying new releases. I need to learn a little patience. Sometimes with the releases, I just don't have time to keep up with them all. The impulse is there to buy these things straight away. But sometimes I think I need to stop and consider, have I got the time to actually watch the thing that I've just bought? I mean, for example, come over here. Oh, this pile of stuff. This stuff is all relatively recently picked up, and it's sat here not organised in the collection and pretty much untouched. This is a mixture of sale items and some new releases, but some, like Hush. I picked it up. Yeah, you can see I picked it up. I picked it up with the intention of watching, but I've not had a chance to give it a look yet, and the problem is with this kind of release, I've bought it at the full retail price. Before you know it, these things, they'll be in the sale. I've paid to have this in the collection, but I've not made use of it. And then suddenly, I could have picked it up for a fraction of the price. And because of my urgency to buy Hush straight away, and then not having a chance to watch it, have I kind of wasted my money? Because let's face it, I've just not used the thing. I feel like I just need to consider a little more if the thing is going to get used, or if I'm better off just waiting for a sale or until I've got time to watch it. Then there's the thing of perhaps doing a little bit of research and looking at other options. And the thing is, since we've lost the high street rental stores, I've kind of fallen into the habit of just buying the titles that I wanted to see. Really, it was the only option that I thought about. And then the problem is, I'd buy these titles, watch them, and then put them in the collection. And honestly, they've not always been movies I've been that bothered about. They just sit gathering dust in the collection. And then over time the collection becomes just too much, and then I incorporate it into a culling video. Then I'll probably get rid of the title at a fraction of the cost that I paid for it. I question why the hell I keep hold of some of the titles that I'm just not that bothered about. Yeah, again, it's still not gone. Quite recently I did a shopping video where I was lingering around picking up Twisters, and thankfully I didn't pick it up at the time. And then, in the same period of time, I got credit from Amazon Prime to use against a free rental. And you know what? I rented Twisters. I kind of enjoyed it for what it was, but it was certainly a title that I knew I didn't want in my collection. I don't think it's going to hold any repeat viewing value. And then it kind of dawned on me. There was potential there that I was going to pick up this title. If I had picked it up, it would have been sat in my collection. In renting the movie, I've kind of avoided that extra expenditure and not had the hassle of unnecessarily adding things into the collection. I need to stop and consider these titles a little more and start to relearn that renting these movies through the digital platform is a completely acceptable option. Then for 2025, what do I do about all those 4K upgrades? I mean, it's a thing that we're starting to see more and more. Some of our old favourites, and other movies as well, getting that nice new upgrade to 4K. Stay. It's great, right? Who doesn't love an upgraded picture and upgraded sound? Well, In the case of the 4K upgrades, I need to learn a little patience there too. Where is it? We're seeing a lot of these upgrades coming through, and the results haven't always been favourable. And in some cases, I've actually seen some people downgrade their 4K back to the Blu Ray edition. One example, my buddy Glenn picked up this, the Point Break 4K. He wasn't impressed with it, didn't like the sound. He's downgraded back to the Blu Ray edition because he was just disappointed with what the 4K gave. And it's not the only example either. I've seen poor reviews for the likes of Terminator 2, for Panic Room, and a few others too. For these upgrades, I think I just need to wait out for some reviews, just to make 100% sure that it's worth the premium to buy these titles yet again. I don't think Inglourious Basterds is actually getting the greatest of feedback either, but it's in the collection in a nice big box, so that's going to stay. It's a Tarantino flick, it's got to stay in the collection, right? And while we're on this sort of release, the limited edition big box sets for 2025, what am I going to do? I need to sit and have a think about those too. I mean, the game, I had a knee-jerk reaction that this needed ordering straight away. Blah. I need to order it or I'm going to miss it. Again though, I need to consider things a little more. For example, Arrow recently announced a new edition of Deep Blue Sea. One second. I think I've got it here somewhere. This side. Deep Blue Sea.
You think water's fast? You should see ice.
Now, Deep Blue Sea, it's a movie I did enjoy. And it's a movie I've had sat in my collection for years. I had it on DVD, I now have it on Blu Ray. Obviously, since the Blu Ray upgrade, I've got this still sealed in my collection. Clearly, I've not gone back to it for a long time. And suddenly, a new announcement from Arrow, and I'm considering paying a premium to get a limited edition. Honestly, I'm going to put this down a second. We can see it. I'm not even sure that this movie is screaming out for an upgrade. And when I've actually taken that time to sit and think about the title, I'm not even 100% sure if I actually want to make the upgrade. If I do want to go back to it, I'm sure that this edition would be perfectly serviceable for a quick revisit. For me, on this title, I don't need the upgrade. And I think this still being sealed is testament to I don't need the upgrade. I just don't care enough about this movie for it to jump up in my collection to a big box limited edition. Taking the time to actually sit and think about whether it's worth making the purchase has slowed me down from that pre-order click. And now, a couple of weeks after the announcement, I don't feel as bothered anymore. I might get hyped up again closer to the release, but hopefully this video will remind me I don't need the upgrade, I don't need the limited edition. It's something that I need to consider more and more with these boutique releases. How much do I actually care about these movies? And if I do care about the movie, do I need it in a big limited box? Or will a standard edition be just enough? And the other thing I need to consider, there are, of course, digital options for some of these upgrades. For example, the recent release from Arrow for The Gift. The limited edition box set is there with all the extras, the slipcover and whatever else comes with it. But if I'm only interested in watching the movie, then it's available right there on iTunes. And it's only $3.99 for the 4K edition. Now, if I remember rightly, in this stuff that is unorganised, The Gift, I did actually pick up from Arrow. There we go. Just that. And that's because I'm a fan of the film and I'm a fan of the filmmaker too. So this one, it does get a place in my collection, but the digital there for $3.99, it's got to be an option for some people, right? And it shows that perhaps, dependent on my feelings for a particular movie and the need to actually own it in the collection, digital, it could be an option, right? Then that takes us to blind buys. Now, it's something that all physical media collectors are likely to do, buy that movie that they've not seen before, for whatever reason, be it limited edition or just new release anyway, we all blind buy movies. And it's likely to be something that I carry on doing myself, every now and again. But yet again, I just want to be more considered about what I blind buy going forward. And I do want to try and limit those number of blind buys down as much as possible, really. If I do blind buy anything, kind of like I did with this one, Last Stop in Yuma County, then I want to ensure that I've got the time to get it watched pretty much as soon as possible. And then decide if it's a movie I want to keep. If I don't feel strong enough about the movie, Then I've got to consider if it's a title that I want to keep in the collection or if it needs to be out of the door as soon as possible, either for it to be sold on eBay or taken into CEX. And this Last Stop in Yuma County is one that I received about a week ago, and I have made sure I've already watched it, and I've decided this is not a movie that's going to stop in my collection. I didn't feel strong enough about it. Not saying it's a bad movie, it's just one that I don't fancy rewatching, and I've got very little interest in the extra content because I thought the movie was just okay. So Last Stop in Yuma County is heading off to eBay. No, not going to put it there, I'll put it eBay pile. And then another thing for collectors, the double dip. And for that, I'm going to use an example that's through this room. Oh, there we go, into the Tarantino collection. Now anyway, the double dip. We're all going to double dip on titles we either upgrade or get a better release of. And me, I have the habit of keeping the older titles on the shelf too. I need to consider my reasons for keeping the old editions on here. I very recently picked up the Reservoir Dogs 4K. Somewhere. I also have the Reservoir Dogs Blu Ray, and there's a Reservoir Dogs DVD there as well. And I need to consider my reasons for doing this. I mean, I try to justify it by chatting about the extras or the alternate artwork. Mr. Brown edition, you got to keep it right, Mr. Brown, it's Tarantino. But that old version, it's just not going to get used. It's shelf filler. The thing I need to keep in mind, when I'm collecting the new versions of the movies, do I really need to keep the old versions? Are they going to get used? Is there a purpose? If there isn't a use for the older version, then really why do I need to keep it? If it is for something like the artwork, then really I could just buy a print or a poster, because let's face it, we as collectors very rarely display any of our collection showing the artwork. It's all about the spine. That looks pretty good like that, right? Then we get to the sales. As a collector, when collecting more titles in the sales, I always tend to get a little bit carried away. Don't worry, these aren't new pickups, they're just used for prop. And I always feel like I end up buying more than I originally intended. And it's usually because something is a great price. And I want to be more aware and more careful at this sort of behaviour through the rest of the year. When I'm shopping around in these sales, I a lot of the time end up picking up things that just don't really matter to me. Yeah, there may have been a great price. If it wasn't really a movie for me, then why do I get swept away with purchasing? Now, this may seem a little boring to do, but I'm going to start to keep a list. And it's going to be a list of titles that I want or have interest in. And then when those sales swing around, because they will, I can then be a little bit more targeted with what I'm looking and shopping for. And if I have to come away from a store like HMV empty-handed, then so be it. I don't need to buy something every time I shop. I also don't need to complete collections. And it's one thing I've been very guilty of in the past. I felt like I've needed to complete franchises or have a director's full catalogue. This is my Robert Rodriguez collection. I've got all his movies and it's a nice complete collection. But again, sometimes I need to just pull back and consider, are all the titles for me? Do I need them all in my collection? Now, I've already cleared out some weak sequels from some of the franchises that I used to collect for. I no longer have the complete Expendables collection or the entire Fast and Furious franchise, or any Transformers movie. I need to keep in mind that the collection is for me. It's not for a franchise, it's not to have everything. My movies need to represent me. I just need to make sure that the completist in me is collecting the right movies for me, and not just for the collection. I get carried away. I've got a lot of really bad collecting habits. Really, it's an addiction that I still struggle with. I'm kind of working through it. When the impulse sets in for me, it can sometimes get a little bit crazy. In 2025, or at least for the rest of the year, I want to take control of my collecting, not let my collection control me. With a bunch of the stuff that you've seen through the videos and some of my shelving, I do plan on culling some of it out. If it's something that you'd like to see, then drop a comment below, show me the cull, and I'll see what I can do.